August 3, 1944, 0520 hours, somewhere outside La Roche-Guyon, France. The morning air is already thick with dust. It hangs low over the Seine Valley, stirred constantly by trucks, motorcycles, and staff cars racing in and out of the Chateau courtyard. Inside, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel stands over a long wooden map table, his palms flat against France itself. Red and blue pins crowd the paper. Arrows overlap. Lines cross where they should not. Rommel does not look tired. He looks confused. A junior staff officer clears his throat and begins reading the overnight situation report. The words come out clipped, rehearsed, almost apologetic. American armored elements confirmed west of Le Mans. A pause. Now reported south of Alençon. Rommel slowly straightens. That is not possible, not yet. The distances are wrong. The timing is wrong. The German defensive plans assume at least 5 days before any American armored force could reach that depth. The bridges, the road bottlenecks, the fuel limitations, all of it has been calculated down to the hour. Rommel taps the map with a pencil. How many? He asks quietly. The officer swallows. Multiple columns, Herr Feldmarschall, Shermans, half-tracks, artillery towed close behind. Rommel says nothing. Outside, an aircraft engine drones overhead. Everyone freezes for a split second, waiting for the whistle of bombs that does not come. The sound fades east. Rommel exhales slowly and looks back down at the map. If these reports are accurate, then General George S. Patton's Third Army is not advancing. It is flowing. 2 days earlier, on August 1st, Patton's Third Army officially became operational. The paperwork alone had taken months. The Germans knew the name. They knew the reputation. But intelligence assessments concluded the same thing over and over again. Patton was dangerous, but predictable. Aggressive, loud, obsessed with speed. A man who would eventually overextend himself and break against prepared defenses. German planners had drawn those defenses carefully. Strong points outside Le Mans, blocking positions along the Sarthe, secondary fallback lines guarding the road network feeding Paris. Each was designed to slow, bleed, and channel any American advance. But now Rommel is staring at reports that suggest those positions were never even engaged. They were bypassed, ignored, left standing and useless. Rommel flips open his notebook. His handwriting is tight, slanted forward, as if always in a hurry to catch up with events. He writes a single line. Enemy armor advancing faster than anticipated. Movement does not follow expected axes. That sentence will haunt him. On the roads of western France, the reason becomes brutally clear. Patton's columns do not pause to dress their lines. They do not wait for infantry to catch up. M4 Shermans roar past stunned French civilians, their engines screaming, antennas whipping back in the wind. Tank commanders stand half-exposed from their turrets, goggles pulled tight, hands gripping binoculars already fogged with dust. Behind them come fuel trucks, ammunition carriers, engineers riding open-bed vehicles, explosives strapped beside them. There is no neat formation, no parade ground precision. There is only motion. You can almost feel it, the heat radiating off the armor, the vibration underfoot, the sense that stopping even for a moment might break the spell. Patton has given his commanders a single obsession: keep moving. When bridges are destroyed, engineers throw down temporary spans within hours. When German resistance stiffens, artillery fires not to destroy, but to suppress, just long enough for tanks to slip around the flanks and disappear down another road. German units wake up expecting contact and find nothing. Then, hours later, reports arrive that American tanks are already behind them. Back at La Roche-Guyon, Rommel receives another update. American spearheads have reached Argenton. Rommel's jaw tightens. Argenton lies deep in what should still be a contested zone. German divisions assigned to delay Patton are still redeploying, still moving into position. Too late. Rommel begins to understand something deeply unsettling. This is not a traditional breakthrough. This is not exploitation after a victory. This is something else. Patton is not fighting the German army as a single mass. He is shattering it into isolated fragments, forcing commanders to react individually, blindly, without coordination. The German command structure depends on time to issue orders, time to prepare, time to reposition heavy weapons. Patton is stealing that time. Rommel circles several German divisions on the map, units that on paper still exist, units with strength, artillery, and armor. In reality, they are already irrelevant. A staff officer ventures a question. Should we order immediate withdrawal to the Seine, Herr Feldmarschall? Rommel hesitates. To withdraw now would mean abandoning prepared defenses without a fight. It would mean conceding that German operational planning has failed completely. But to hold. Rommel looks again at the distances Patton's tanks have covered in less than 48 hours. He imagines American armor reaching the Seine before German bridges can be blown. Imagines supply dumps captured intact. Imagines retreat routes collapsing into chaos. For the first time since Normandy, Rommel feels something colder than urgency. He feels loss of control. He finally answers. Prepare contingency orders, he says, but wait. Wait. That single word buys time and costs Germany far more than Rommel yet realizes. Because even now, as he studies the map, Patton's columns are already pushing east, moving faster than German maps can track. And somewhere ahead, entire defensive lines still sit quiet and confident, unaware that the war has already passed them by. By August 4, 1944, the German front in western France no longer resembles a line. It is a scatter of isolated units, each fighting its own private war. Rommel stands again at the map table, but now the pins have begun to drift eastward in uneven clusters. Entire regimental sectors are blank, not because they are secure, but because no one knows where they are anymore. Reports arrive out of order. A panzer battalion requesting fuel from a depot already captured. An infantry regiment calling for artillery support from guns that no longer exist. A divisional headquarters moving twice in a single night, chased by rumors of American armor that never appears, until it suddenly does. This is how a front collapses, not in a single blow, but in disorientation. Rommel listens as a signals officer explains that radio traffic has tripled. Everyone is asking the same question. Where is the enemy? Rommel knows the answer is worse than they imagine. The enemy is everywhere. On the road east of Le Mans, Patton's headquarters is on the move again. There is no grand command post, no fixed location, just a stream of vehicles pushing through choking dust, maps spread across hoods, officers shouting distances and road names over engine noise. Patton stands beside his command car, helmet strapped low, ivory-handled pistols heavy on his hips. He listens to a report from a corps commander who is already apologizing. "Sir, we've outrun our left flank." Patton smiles thinly. "Good," he says. "That means they're chasing ghosts." He stabs a finger eastward on the map. "Don't wait for permission. If you see open road, take it. If you meet resistance, go around it. The only mistake is stopping." This is not recklessness. It is calculation. Patton understands something Rommel is only now beginning to grasp. German command doctrine cannot function at this speed. Orders must move up the chain. Counterorders must move back down. Each delay compounds the next. Patton's advance is not just faster than German movement. It is faster than German thought. In the German rear, the consequences are immediate and brutal. At a crossroads outside Alençon, a German anti-tank gun waits in ambush, its crew sweating under camouflage netting. They have been told American armor will approach from the west. It never does. Instead, Shermans appear from the south, engines roaring, guns already traversing. The gun crew scrambles. One man fires wildly. Another is cut down before he can turn the weapon. The position is overrun in seconds. There is no heroic stand, no desperate last defense. Only surprise. And then silence. Multiply this moment by 100, across dozens of towns and roads, and the German defensive concept disintegrates. Rommel receives confirmation that American armor has reached the outskirts of Le Mans and pushed through without pausing to consolidate. He grips the edge of the table harder now. Le Mans was supposed to be a pivot point, a place where German forces would regroup, re-anchor the front and bleed Patton dry. Instead, it has become a doorway. Rommel writes again in his notebook. Enemy advances not by pressure but by penetration, front no longer cohesive. That word penetration matters. A pressured front can be reinforced. A penetrated front collapses from within. German commanders on the ground sense it too. One divisional commander radios higher headquarters asking permission to withdraw before his flanks are turned. The response comes hours later. Hold present positions. By the time the message arrives, American tanks are already behind him. Another commander disobeys orders entirely, pulling his unit back under cover of darkness. When daylight comes, he discovers neighboring units gone, destroyed, captured, or simply vanished. The German army is no longer maneuvering. It is reacting. And reaction at Patton's pace is fatal. Rommel now faces a choice that will define the campaign. Hold what remains of the front and risk encirclement. Or pull back and concede France piece by piece. He looks at the Seine River on the map. It is meant to be a final barrier, a place to regroup, to stabilize, to buy time for new formations. But even as he studies it, a realization begins to form. Rivers only matter if you reach them before the enemy. And Patton is already racing for crossings. The Germans have not yet ordered destroyed. Rommel turns to his chief of staff. Begin preparing withdrawal routes, he says. His voice is calm, but there is no mistaking the shift. We may not have the time we think we do. Outside, engines growl in the distance. German vehicles moving east, American vehicles moving faster. The gap between them is closing. And Rommel understands now that this is no longer about defending France. It is about surviving the speed of the man coming for it. August 6, 1944, late afternoon, La Roche-Guyon. The shadow feels smaller now. Maps have been updated so many times that the paper curls at the edges. Grease pencil marks overlap like scars. What once looked like an organized withdrawal has become a series of improvised arrows, each one shorter than the last. Rommel studies the latest intelligence summary in silence. American armored elements sighted near Mayenne. Recon units probing east toward Alençon. Fuel dumps captured intact. Rommel closes his eyes for a moment. This is not an advance measured in kilometers per day. This is momentum. And momentum, once gained, is brutally hard to stop. Rommel has fought the British across North Africa. He has seen aggressive commanders before, but even Montgomery's deliberate hammer blows allowed time to react, to adapt, to rebuild. Patton allows none of that. What Rommel realizes now is chilling in its simplicity. Patton is not fighting for territory. He is fighting for time. Every hour the Americans move unopposed is an hour the German army never gets back. Rommel turns to a senior operations officer. Where are our reserves? The officer hesitates too long. Committed piecemeal, Herr Feldmarschall. Most are engaged or attempting to disengage. Rommel nods slowly. That is the second realization. The German army in France no longer has reserves. They have been fed into the chaos one battalion at a time, each thrown forward to plug a hole that no longer exists by the time they arrive. This is exactly what Patton wants. Rommel flips back through earlier reports. The pattern is unmistakable now. Whenever German forces attempt to form a defensive line, Patton refuses to collide with it head-on. Instead, his columns fan out, probing relentlessly, finding weak seams, unguarded roads, empty towns. The defense never fails because it is weak. It fails because it is irrelevant. Rommel writes again in his notebook, slower this time. Enemy movement too rapid for traditional defense. Command and control breaking down. This is the core truth. German doctrine depends on control, on issuing orders that shape the battlefield. Patton's speed is stealing that control. News arrives that strikes even deeper. American armor has approached multiple crossings along the Sarthe before demolition orders could be carried out. In some cases, German engineers fled under pressure before explosives could be set. Rommel feels a tightening in his chest. Bridges are not just physical obstacles. They are symbols of planning. If the bridges fall intact, then every assumption behind the German withdrawal collapses. Rommel requests direct communication with Army Group B commanders. The conversation is tense, clipped, almost defensive. Some insist they can still stabilize the situation. Others argue for immediate withdrawal to the Seine. Rommel listens, weighing each voice, but his mind is already ahead of the discussion. Even if they reach the Seine, what then? The river will slow Patton, briefly, but only if German units arrive in cohesion, only if artillery, fuel, and communications arrive intact. Rommel knows what cohesion looks like. This is not it. That evening, Rommel walks alone through the Schadau grounds. The sun is low, throwing long shadows across the stone walls. Somewhere in the distance, artillery rumbles dull, irregular, moving east. Rommel stops and looks toward the horizon. He thinks of the German army he once commanded in Africa, outnumbered, undersupplied, but still unified, still capable of maneuver. France is different. Here, the enemy does not just defeat units. He dislocates them. Rommel understands now that Patton's advance is not a gamble that might fail. It is a systemic attack on how the German army fights. And systems, once broken, do not heal quickly. Rommel returns to the map room and issues new orders. Selective withdrawals, priority to mobility, abandon heavy equipment if necessary, preserve manpower over ground. These are not the orders of a man planning victory. They are the orders of a man trying to prevent catastrophe. As the staff disperses, Rommel remains at the table. He stares at the empty spaces on the map, areas that should contain German units but no longer do. For the first time, Rommel allows himself to think the unthinkable. If Patton is not slowed soon, if this pace continues, then the German army in France may not retreat. It may collapse. And even as that realization settles in, a new report arrives, American reconnaissance units probing toward crossings on the Seine. Rommel looks up. The race is no longer theoretical. It has begun August 7, 1944, early morning, Western France. The German withdrawal begins in fragments. Columns move before dawn, engines muffled, headlights hooded. Horse-drawn wagons creak alongside trucks already low on fuel. Officers carry folded maps that are obsolete before sunrise. There is no clean break from contact. There is only motion, hurried, uneven, desperate. Rommel's orders are clear on paper. Fall back in stages, preserve cohesion, deny the enemy crossings. On the ground, those orders arrive late, if they arrive at all. American pressure is not constant. That is what makes it lethal. Patton's units strike, vanish, reappear somewhere else. German commanders cannot tell where the main effort is, or if there even is one. Every sound on the horizon could be armor. Every road could already be cut. Near Mayenne, a German staff car screeches to a halt at a crossroads marked with hastily painted arrows. The officer inside unfolds his map and frowns. The road ahead is supposed to be clear. It is. A pair of American M4 Shermans block the intersection, engines idling, crews relaxed, almost bored. The officer reaches for his pistol, then stops. The war has outrun him. Patton's command philosophy now reveals its full effect. He does not require units to report success. He requires them to report movement. When a corps commander radios that resistance is light but flanks are exposed, Patton's response is immediate. Good, that means they're running, keep going. This relentless forward motion turns every German pause into a vulnerability. Every delay becomes an opening. German commanders wait for permission. American commanders create facts. At La Roche-Guyon, Rommel listens to reports that sound increasingly unreal. American columns appearing where no enemy movement was expected. German rearguards bypassed without engagement. Entire battalions withdrawing only to discover the roads ahead already occupied. Rommel knows what this means. The enemy is no longer reacting to German movements. German movements are reacting to the enemy. That reversal is fatal. A German general suggests forming a strong defensive line anchored on towns and river crossings, forcing Patton into set-piece battles. Rommel does not dismiss the idea. He simply asks a single question. With what time? Silence answers him. By the time such a line is formed, Patton will already be somewhere else. The reports from German engineers are the worst of all. Bridges that should have been destroyed intact, demolition teams scattered by artillery fire or bypassed entirely, explosives abandoned in ditches as American patrols appear unexpectedly. Every intact bridge is a gift Patton does not hesitate to accept. Fuel trucks roll across spans meant to deny them, artillery follows, then more tanks. The American advance feeds itself. Rommel writes again in his notebook. The handwriting is heavier now. Enemy advances faster than orders can be issued. Our reactions arrive after the event. This is the realization fully formed. Speed has become a weapon. Not tanks. Not guns. Not aircraft. Speed. That afternoon, Rommel authorizes broader withdrawals toward the Seine. It is a gamble, a race against Patton's columns, a hope that German units can disengage and reach the river before American armor seals the crossings. Rommel knows the risks. If Patton reaches the Seine first, he will not simply cross it. He will explode through it. And the German army west of the river will be trapped. As night falls, German units move east under the cover of darkness. Some succeed. Many do not. American patrols appear like phantoms, headlights flashing briefly before opening fire. Roadblocks spring up where no one expected them. The war has become three-dimensional, front, rear, flanks all blurred together. Rommel sits alone again, listening to the distant thunder of engines. He understands now that the map no longer represents reality. Reality is moving too fast. And somewhere ahead, Patton is not slowing, he is accelerating. The Seine is no longer a line on paper. It is a finish line. And Rommel does not know if his army can reach it first. August 9, 1944. Dawn, near the Seine River. Mist clings to the low ground along the riverbanks, turning the landscape into a pale blur of hedgerows, water, and half-seen roads. German engineers work frantically, hands numb, fingers slick with sweat and river mud as they wire demolition charges to bridge supports. Every few minutes, someone looks west. They are not waiting for orders. They are listening for engines. Rommel's gamble is underway. The plan is simple in theory and nearly impossible in practice. Pull what remains of Army Group B back across the Seine, destroy the bridges, and rebuild a defensive line behind the river before Patton can arrive in force. But theory assumes time. Patton is removing it hour by hour. American reconnaissance units reach the outskirts of several Seine crossings earlier than expected, not in strength, just enough to be seen, just enough to be felt. A jeep appears on a ridge line. An armored car probes a road. Artillery fire walks lazily across a bridge approach. German commanders panic. Demolition orders are issued too early in some places, destroying bridges needed by retreating units. Too late in others, leaving spans intact as American armor surges forward. The withdrawal turns chaotic. Rommel receives a report that cuts through all remaining optimism. American forces have crossed the Seine at multiple points before full demolitions could be completed. He closes his eyes. The worst case is no longer hypothetical. On the American side, Patton is watching the same river with a different emotion. Impatience. He wants speed. He wants shock. He wants to keep the German army from ever regaining balance. Get across wherever you can, he orders. If they try to stop you, they're already too late. And they are. Sherman splash through shallow crossings. Engineers throw pontoon bridges under sporadic fire. Artillery rolls forward almost continuously, firing as it moves. This is not a careful crossing. It is a surge. Back at La Roche-Guyon, Rommel issues the order he had hoped never to give. Abandon heavy equipment, destroy what cannot be moved, save the men. The German army west of the Seine is being sacrificed, so the rest might live. Rommel understands what this means for the war. France is lost. Not gradually, not defensively, but suddenly. Rommel writes one final note in his book for the day. Enemy speed has made organized withdrawal impossible in places, losses heavy, situation critical. There is no bitterness in the words, only clarity. That night, Rommel prepares to leave the shade, though. The headquarters that once symbolized control now feels like a relic. The war has moved on without it. As he steps outside, he pauses and looks west one last time. Somewhere beyond the darkness, Patton's columns are still moving, engines roaring, radios crackling, maps being redrawn on the fly. Rommel understands now what he had been slow to accept. This was never a contest of numbers. It was a contest of tempo. And in that contest, Patton had seized the initiative and never let go. The realization comes with a final, unsettling thought. If this is how the German army collapses in France, what happens when the same speed is unleashed on Germany itself? August 11, 1944, eastern bank of the Seine. The river no longer sounds like hope. It sounds like loss. German units trickle across the remaining bridges in no particular order: infantry without rifles, artillery crews without guns, officers without units. Some cross in trucks. Others wade, boots slung around their necks, uniforms heavy with river water and exhaustion. Behind them, fires burn. Fuel dumps, vehicles, entire batteries destroyed where they stand. Not because they were defeated in battle, but because they were defeated by time. Rommel arrives briefly at a forward command post east of the Seine. The officers there look older than they did a week ago. Their eyes avoid the map. Rommel doesn't need the briefing. He can see it. What remains of Army Group B is a shell, alive but hollowed out. Units exist in name only. Command structures are fractured. Equipment losses are catastrophic. The German army has crossed the river, but it has not escaped. American artillery now ranges freely on the western approaches. Patton's columns fan out again, pressing against every weak point, never allowing the Germans to rebuild cohesion. Rommel knows this pattern now. He has felt it in Africa, in Italy, but never at this scale. Speed has created irreversibility. Once momentum passes a certain threshold, recovery becomes impossible. Rommel orders new defensive positions established deeper inside France's eastern approaches. On paper, it is a reorganization. In reality, it is an admission. The campaign for France is over. The only question left is how much of the German army can be preserved for what comes next. That evening, Rommel opens his notebook one last time. The earlier entries speak of terrain, enemy strength, weather. The recent ones speak only of movement. He writes, "Enemy advance dictated the battle. We followed too late." It is not an excuse. It is a verdict. Across the river, Patton is already thinking beyond France. He studies maps of Germany now, tracing roads, rivers, cities. His staff worries aloud about supply lines, about exhaustion, about political limits. Patton listens. Then he says what Rommel already knows to be true. "We didn't win because we were stronger. We won because we were faster." Rommel will soon be gone, wounded, then removed from command, then drawn into events far darker than maps and rivers. But the realization he reached in August 1944 will outlive him. Modern war is no longer decided solely by mass or firepower. It is decided by tempo, by who moves first, and who cannot keep up. As the dust settles over France, the maps finally begin to reflect reality. But by then, the reality has already moved on.